It's going to be probably the deepest team that we've had here. Our guard play is extremely good right now. Our post play is getting better. Liz Dixon has had some great improvement over the summer. Excited where she is. Olivia Cochran is a freshman. Is looked better. She's looked better than what I anticipated. I knew she was good, but she's playing even better than what I thought she would this early in her career. So really excited about it. Going to get tipped off here in less than a month, and it's going to be a fun and interesting season for sure.
All right. Anybody have questions for Coach?
Yeah, I'll start. What do you like about your team so far? What's the thing that really stands out collectively that maybe you either did or didn't expect, or maybe one of its biggest strengths?
Well, our competitiveness right now, we have 12 that are eligible to play, and I can honestly say that I've got 12 that I can play in every game, and I'm not, it's not a huge drop off. And that's something that you haven't necessarily had in years past. All three of my freshmen, Haley Van Lith, Olivia Cochran, Marissa Russell, are going to play. They're going to come in and play significant minutes. And then Alana Smith, our junior college transfer, she's played extremely well. And normally with junior college players, you normally get a junior college player, and then that first year they're adapting to the Division I game. So sometimes it takes about a half a year for them to get going. But with Alana, she played at UCLA for a year. So she's got the Division I experience at a high level, goes to junior college, really refined some things, got better, and now she's fitting in well. So that's probably been the most exciting thing for me. It's not very often you get four newcomers that are eligible to play, and all four of them are going to be able to come in and compete with a pretty darn good returning group.
Another quick question follow-up. The whole thing with the young center, minimal attendance, just some thoughts about having so few people there for games and how that may or may not change the dynamic and all those things that are attached to it.
Well, we're just grateful that we're going to be able to have some fans. So our players are excited about that. Nick, what was our number that they had hoped that we could get to?
3,000.
3,000. So if we're able to max out at 3,000, Fred, it's obviously, a little bit less than a third of what we would normally get for our games. But for a lot of the places we go, that would be some of the biggest crowds that school has had for a women's basketball game. So it's going to change the environment for us some, obviously at home games. But I've got a lot of confidence and faith in our fans that those 3,000 are going to come and make up for the other 6,500, 7,000 additional we normally get and be even louder. So I'm still expecting a very good environment.
Hey, Jeff, Dominique Yates over at the Courier-Journal. You were able to recently announce some of the non-conference opponents that you'll play. Is that almost a relief more than anything, being able to go through just this process of scheduling? And, just how did it go, just the process of getting those teams, including Bellarmine?
Well, it's, it's been a challenge. Now, the unique thing about it is, you go through your schedule, and we've had some obviously that were canceled because of when you were planning to play them. We had Western Kentucky. I believe we were supposed to start the year off at Western. And obviously I called down to Greg, and we just couldn't find a spot to plug them in. And at the meantime, you're trying to figure out how many conference games were we going to have. We went from 18 to 20, and then they cut down the number of regular season games you're allowed to have to 25 if you're not playing into an MTE. So now all of a sudden we're at 5 games. So we are excited. We're thrilled to be able to have announced our schedule and looking forward to hopefully being able to play all 25 games.
Coach, this is Paulie with Cardinal Couple. You recently found out that there's going to be some student housing right across from the practice facility. Just your thoughts and observations on that?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really excited. We've known about the talks about it and about the hopes of having that come to fruition. And, now seeing the diagrams and the announcement, it's going to be big for our program, and it's going to be big for all of our programs, men's basketball, lacrosse, us, to be able to have a facility right across the street, a housing facility from our basketball facility is big for recruiting. Just you're eliminating travel going from one side of campus to the other. It looks absolutely beautiful. So, it's just one of those things that will help us, we feel, in the world of recruiting, and then for our current players as well.
Jeff, this is Kent Taylor from Wave TV. You mentioned the non-conference schedule. Take us through the process with Kentucky and what happened with that game for this year.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'd reached out to Amy Tilley, is who I have always talked to for 14 years within Kentucky's basketball program. Some programs like here, I do all of our scheduling. So a lot of other programs, assistants do it, director of ops do it, and Amy does it. I called Amy a few weeks back, well, probably a month and a half back, and just talked about hey, I don't know what's going to happen with how many conference games we're each going to play, when the season is going to start. Are we going to be able to have fans? And really just talked about, hey, would you guys be interested in putting it off a year? Because I hate to play a Louisville, Kentucky game with possibly nobody at the game, or even, now it could be 3,000 fans. And I've always had a good working relationship with Amy and them at Kentucky. I think Matthew even commented that we had an agreement going back to when Rob Mullins was the associate AD at Kentucky. He kind of stepped in and helped us. And we said, hey, the first Sunday of December is when Kentucky Louisville women's basketball is going to play every single year. And we both agreed to it. Okay, good. Well, then Kentucky volleyball started to get an uptick, and all of a sudden now they're hosting the NCAA tournaments, which was that first weekend in December. So when they called and asked me, hey, would you be willing to change? I had no problem. It wasn't, we have a contract, we're sticking to it. So for our home games, if you go back how many years, we always play the first Sunday of December. And then when it's Kentucky's home game, we played there sometimes on Thursdays. We played on Sundays later in December. So we've always had a really good working relationship. And it was just something that worked out. So instead of playing a game, a huge game in front of nobody, we're now able to push that off for a season.
Jeff, hey, it's Jody Demling with Cardinal Authority. You were talking about the depth earlier in the freshmen. Is this a year when you could see a starting lineup? And I know that doesn't matter to you as much. It matters who finishes the game. But is this a year you could see where you have multiple starting lineups throughout the first part of the season?
Yeah, I could easily see that, Jody. We've actually been scrimmaging every Saturday against ourselves and against our scout guys. And I've changed up the 3 scrimmages that we've had. I'm really still trying to work on, okay, what's going to be the best combinations? It's not necessarily I'm looking to just start what I would consider our best 5 players. I'm looking at what's going to be the best combinations for when I put the first group out there and then I sub in. I want to be able to not just maintain, but to raise our level of play when we start to sub. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. I've talked to our players. I've explained to them, if you're going to be worried about who's starting, it's not going to be a good year. Everybody's going to get the chance to play. And at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. And then, they all love that handshake as you go out there for the starting lineup and all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, we now are going to have 3,000 at our games, but who knows how many are going to be able to come to games on the road. So let's just worry about winning basketball games, and everything else will take care of itself. So yeah, so we have talked about all of it, and I've been really pleased with how they've just taken all of it in.
Jeff, Graham Hayes here from ESPN. I'm curious, kind of thinking about just how the season is actually going to work, and as far as quarantine timing and testing protocols, tier 1 contacts. What questions do you still have? What things are you still trying to figure out how it's going to work once games actually start?
Well, Graham, I feel pretty confident with everything that I've gotten from the ACC office, from the University of Louisville on protocols and how testing's going to go. I will tell you one thing that we are working on right now is I'm trying to get about 10 schools within driving distance that aren't necessarily on my schedule right now. So if I'm scheduled to play at Middle Tennessee State on November the 25th, my first game, if they were to call me and say, hey, we can't play, we've got so many kids possibly, they tested positive, we have to cancel the game. Well, I'm putting together a list of 10 or 12 other coaches that I can send a text message out and say, hey, my game tomorrow night just got canceled. Anybody looking for a game? And then we're just going to meet up, if it's at my place or their place, and go play and find 3 officials. And just that's going to be our game, because I think that very possibly could happen. So, Graham, we're trying to get ahead of it, to where if a non-conference game is canceled, we have the ability to hopefully find someone to play. And the coaches that I've talked to, they're all in agreement. They're excited about it. We're hoping it doesn't happen. And we're not worried about, I didn't have a days to prepare for your game. I need game film. No, we're just going to show up and play, because that's what these players want to do. They've worked so hard this summer, this fall. They want to play games. And obviously we would do it to make sure it's safe and done right. But if we have to adjust our schedule on the fly, that's what we're going to do.
Would you need to match up any of the testing protocols or get approval from anybody to do it on that sort of notice?
Well, I'm sure we would. The thing about it, everybody that I've talked to, we're all doing the same testing protocols. So all the schools that I've talked with, everybody's going to be in compliance, because the great thing is there are a few of the schools in my area that are playing Big Ten schools. They're playing ACC. They're playing SEC. So they're all already following the protocols that are going to be put in place.
Jeff, it's Dominique again. How soon do you start to go through the process of preparing for Middle Tennessee? Are you still in the mode of just working on what you like to do, or when do you kind of start going through that process?
We won't worry to start going through that for another 2.5 weeks. We play on the 25th, which is a Wednesday, so I could see probably on Sunday or Monday before the game we start preparing. It's one of those. There's no film. There's no exhibition games. So really you're just going off of what you know from last year, and you've got a lot of teams that have new players like ourselves. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a year where the first few games, you're not going to have 5 or 6 game films to scout somebody. Nick, anything else from anybody?
Anybody got anything else?
Yeah, Jeff, I have one more. When you talk about the freshmen, everybody, we've talked a lot about Haley and have asked you a lot about Haley. What does Olivia bring? And you talked about post players, and inside players. I would imagine she is physical enough to kind of help you out this year. What does she bring to the table?
Well, her strength, Jody, her ability to finish around the basket with contact, even though she's 6'2", she's by far the best back to the basket post player that we've had here as a freshman in my 14 years. She doesn't necessarily have the same face-up game right now that Maisha Hines-Hallen had when she came in, or Sam Murian had. But back to the basket, she finishes around that basket and she embraces contact. So she's someone who really is going to be able to give us a dimension that we have not had in a few years.
Jeff, is there a trophy or an oversized check or something that you won that we could get a photo op with?
Well, there actually is a trophy. I'd be happy to take a picture and send that to you. I actually the morning after I sent it out to all the guys, and I said, after 8 hours of exercise, 37,000 steps, sometimes you need a big cup of coffee. And I had my trophy as I was drinking my coffee out of the trophy. So I like to throw in a jab or two, but it's one of those things. I take a lot of pride in it, but it's not like I was competing against, really great athletes. I got a couple buddies. I hope they're watching.
If we get we get a picture of that, email to us, we can use it.
Oh, hey, believe me, I'll get you an email. I'll get you a picture.
As soon as possible, please. It'd be great.
Hey, and if any of you guys are interested too, we're going to do a little scrimmage, one of these this Saturday or next Saturday, and we're going to try to put it up on Zoom. Like, I'll send you a Zoom invite so you could get a chance to watch us some. Okay, because I think it'd be great if you're trying to do any little piece on a player or something. At least you could get a chance to see them out there live before first game.
Thank you. That'd be huge. Please do.
Yeah. And Coach, if you want to send me that trophy, I'll make sure whoever wants it gets a picture.
I would hope you would. Guys, you guys are fantastic. I sure appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jeff.